Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. Today, we are sitting across from a man who was a force of nature, on the field, on the screen, and in the community. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
I'm Jim Brown. Most folks know me for carrying a football for the Cleveland Browns or maybe for a few roles in Hollywood, but I always like to think of myself as an activist and a man who stood his ground, no matter where that ground happened to be.
A legend in every sense. Let's go back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on February 17, 1936. The place was St. Simon's Island, right off the coast of Georgia. It was a beautiful, isolated place back then.
And what was your given name at birth?
My full name is James Nathaniel Brown.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
You know, there isn't a long, winding legend about it. My mother just wanted a strong name for her boy. James was classic, and Nathaniel had a bit of weight to it. I think it served me well.
Definitely. What was your hometown like growing up?
St. Simon's was a tight-knit community. It was segregated, of course, but as a young child I felt protected there. I spent my first 8 years being raised by my great-grandmother, who I called Mama. Life was slow, coastal, and very community-oriented.
What was your family life like?
It was a bit unconventional. My father, Swinton, was a professional boxer, but he left us when I was just 2. My mother, Teresa, moved up north to New York to find work as a domestic so she could provide for me. I stayed with my grandmother until I was 8. And then I took that big trip north to join my mother in Manhasset, Long Island.
That's a big shift. What kind of kid were you back then?
I was a bit of a sponge. When I got to Long Island, I was this country boy in a very different world. I was quiet at first, but I found my voice through sports. I was competitive, driven, and I realized early on that if I was the best on the field, people had to respect me.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
My biggest fear was probably being average or being held back because of the color of my skin. I saw the barriers clearly and I was afraid of being boxed in. I wanted to prove I could do anything anyone else could do and do it better.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
To be honest, I just wanted to be a man of significance. I didn't know if that would be through sports, but I knew I wanted to excel. Whether it was baseball, basketball, or football, I just wanted to be the one they couldn't stop.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
Aside from the sports, I actually enjoyed student government. I was even elected Chief Justice of the high school court. I liked the idea of fairness and leadership. I was also in the Honor Society. I made sure my grades were as strong as my game.
What was your first job?
Outside of helping my mother, I did some caddying at the local golf courses. It was a way to make a few dollars and see a world I wasn't usually allowed into.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
It happened on the playing fields. I realized that while other kids had to practice to get good, things just came naturally to me. I had a physical presence and a speed that others couldn't match. I remember thinking, okay, this is my edge.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Choosing Syracuse University, I had plenty of offers, but a local lawyer in Manhasset, Ken Malloy, really pushed for Syracuse. He actually raised the money for my first year himself because the school wouldn't give me a scholarship right away. Going there changed the entire trajectory of my life.
What was your biggest break?
My biggest break was finally getting onto the field at Syracuse. I was buried on the depth chart, 5th string, partly because of the prejudices of the time, but someone got injured, I got my chance, and I never looked back. I went from 5th string to All-American.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
The segregation and the doubt, being the only black player on my freshman team, living in a separate dormitory, and having coaches who didn't want to play me despite my talent. It was a mental battle as much as a physical one.
Did you ever consider quitting?
I came close during that freshman year at Syracuse. I felt isolated and undervalued, but my competitive spirit wouldn't let me leave. I knew if I quit, they won, and I don't like losing.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
Discipline. I treated my body like a machine. I didn't believe in making excuses. Whether it was film study or physical conditioning, I stayed consistent. I also made it a habit to never let one person tackle me. I always wanted to be moving forward.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I think I would have gone into law or community organizing. I always had a mind for justice and helping people build their own economic power.
What was your life like before fame?
It was a life of observation. I spent a lot of time watching how the world worked, seeing where the power was held, and figuring out how a black man could navigate that world with dignity.
How did relationships change after success?
Success brings a lot of people into your orbit. Some are there for the right reasons and some aren't. It became harder to know who was genuine. I valued the people who knew me before the headlines much more.
Did fame bring happiness?
Fame brings opportunity, but I wouldn't say it brings happiness. Happiness came from the work I did with my foundation, American, and seeing young men turn their lives around. The fame part was just a tool I used to open doors.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
You live under a microscope. Every mistake is magnified and people think they own a piece of you. It can be exhausting to always be Jim Brown, the icon, instead of just Jim.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
Many people thought I was just this angry, unapproachable guy because I stood up for my rights and didn't smile for the cameras just to make folks comfortable. In reality, I cared deeply about my community and had a lot of love for the people I was trying to help.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My mother for her sacrifice and Ken Malloy for believing in me when the system didn't. They gave me the foundation I needed to build my own life.
What was life like in your final years?
It was peaceful but active. I spent a lot of time at my home in Los Angeles with my wife, Monique. I remained very involved with the Cleveland Browns as an advisor and continued my work with American. I was happy to see the next generation taking up the mantle of activism.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was always working on expanding the American program. We were focused on teaching life management skills to gang members and inmates, trying to reduce violence and create real change in the inner cities.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on May 18, 2023 at my home in Los Angeles. I was 87 years old.
What happened?
I passed away peacefully of natural causes. I was at home and I had my wife Monique right there by my side. It was a quiet end to a very loud and busy life.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
Many people don't realize I was an elite lacrosse player. In fact, some people say I was even better at lacrosse than I was at football. I'm in the Hall of Fame for both sports.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were plenty, but one of the wilder ones was that I was going to come out of retirement in my late 40s to play for the Raiders. I was still in great shape, but I had moved on to other things by then.
What was your most unique habit?
I had a habit of never showing pain on the football field. I would get hit hard, but I'd always get up slowly and walk back to the huddle perfectly calm. I didn't want the defense to ever think they'd gotten the best of me.
What was your favorite food?
I always had a soft spot for a good steak. Simple, powerful, and effective, just like my running style.
What was your favorite book?
I read a lot of philosophy and books on social structure, but I always went back to biographies of men like Frederick Douglass. I wanted to learn from those who paved the way.
Did you have any known rivalries?
On the field, every linebacker was a rival, but there was always a healthy competition between me and the other greats of the era, like Johnny Unitas or Gale Sayers. We all wanted to be the best.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
People forget that I once served as a color commentator for the very first UFC event back in 1993. I was sitting there at cage side when nobody knew what mixed martial arts really was. I've always been drawn to competition in its purest form.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I wasn't much for outlandish things, but I did enjoy a nice home in the Hollywood Hills. It became a hub where I could host meetings and bring people together for the cause.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't just chase success, chase significance. Success is what you do for yourself. Significance is what you do for others, and never let anyone else define your worth. You define it through your actions.
Before we sign off, do you have any closing remarks or stories you'd like to share with the listeners?
Just that I'm grateful for the journey. I hope people remember me as a man who tried to use his platform for something bigger than a game. It was an honor to share a bit of my time with you today, Calvin. Thank you for keeping the stories alive.
It was an absolute honor, Jim. Thank you for being here. We've covered everything from the shores of Georgia to the bright lights of Cleveland and Hollywood. A life of power, purpose, and unyielding strength. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.